And rely.
Noise, if there's any in the background.
That's okay. Just makes things more interesting.
Well, I think they're trying to get the gardening work done before the rain hits.
Oh, and of course, in Texas, it's not just rain; it's rain.
Okay.
That's what I imagine. Crazy rain, snare rods.
I don't know
Run
how
for the
this is going
hills.
to be. I just know it's getting darker and I can hear thunder in the distance. So.
Right, yeah, and it can get to a point, Jonathan, where you might have to like duck and cover, switch everything off. They had that in. Just slight digression, folks. In Brisbane, there was, like, when they have thunderstorms, it's like 40,000 lightning strikes. So yeah, we're going to be talking today about the
a bit deformed a few times. I know what you're talking about.
Tropical.
Oh, yeah, that kind of weather. Anyway, I'm sorry, I just interrupted you.
I've got to know. Why did you go to Florida? Come on, the audience are going to be thinking, why were you there?
Oh, Disneyland, Disney World.
Jeff loves Disneyland.
I do.
Yeah, I went
there if I could.
I went there 3 times. So.
Yeah, I've also been there 3 times. Well, maybe 4 times. No, I can't remember.
Oh.
Disney World. I've been 4 times. Disneyland, 3.
Yeah, I went on 2 holidays with 3 holidays with my family. Yeah, so nice. Yeah, this is relevant to the talk. We're talking Enneagram 7. We're talking Disneyland. How could you?
But it relates though. Enneagram 7 wants to have fun.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I said.
I'm the Disney World type.
Yeah. So this hangout will be about the instinctual subtypes, but also in general, I think that this type, it's basically you've got like the SP E7s and like your NE Dom E7s, where they can be like a little bit different. Where the so I sort of see the variations that way. And so, do you want to do a little intro, Jonathan?
All right. Well, firstly, I'll answer a question from the last hangout.
Yeah.
I didn't answer properly, which was about why type 7 is a head type.
Right.
So apparently, I was reading about it a bit more, and the head types are actually ones that have problems with thinking in certain ways. With 6 having the most problems with thinking because their thinking goes crazy because of their anxiety and they're thinking outside themselves. They have trouble thinking of themselves. So it says here, I'm looking at Rachel Hudson. The 7's assets and liabilities involve thinking, which is why it's in the thinking triad. And the 5's ability to think is overexpressed. It substitutes thinking for doing. The 6 is most out of touch with their own thoughts. And the 7 has underdeveloped thinking style in that the 7s tend to leave their trains of thought incomplete. They do not finish one thought before another grabs their attention. Also, the 7's style of thinking is highly dependent on activity, on anticipating what they are going to do. So that's what it says about that.
Right, so I have a little addition to the Hangouts. The little whiteboard. And, ta-da! A big whiteboard at the back. There. Right. So yeah, so head types as we've got here, because then I don't have to bring it up. We've got E5, E6.
So if it means that you have trouble thinking, then I definitely have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Jonathan, that's great. If you talk about so what are the problems that the See, I may have zoned out. I don't know. I may have been thinking about this little board. So what are the exact problems that an E7 has with thinking? And then maybe you can like nuance it and say like ENTPs, ENFPs.
It's more that they get distracted easily and they're looking outside. All the head types kind of... They can't be quite... analytical in certain ways. The Type 7 has trouble dealing with their internal anxieties, and they try and distract themselves from it, and they get lost in trains of thought. What happens is they need activity to think properly. That's their main thing, but they can get so caught up in it that they miss the point of whatever it is they're doing.
So we can say that Enneagram Type 7, like artisans. So basically, if we say like the EPs, MBTI code, the EPs, the SE DOMs and NE DOMs, that if we talk about the SE DOMs, they like to be in the moment, doing stuff, and of course when they're in the moment, they're not thinking about stuff. Maybe when they're not in that case, they have like this anxiety and being bored. Is it that sort of thing? When the SE DOMs not in the moment, that's when they start going a bit funny.
It can be with that. It can be with that, yes. So it's. I think it's also.
Right now, where I don't know where I'm going to be living in a couple months.
No.
Because my lease is about to run out, and I don't know where to go, what to do. So there you go.
So Jonathan, does that fit?
That just made me sad.
Well, we can help Jeff out next week.
I'm sorry. Not trying to make anybody sad.
Alright. Well, that's not really a Type 7 problem, that's a life problem. It's one of those sad things. I know you made an INFJ sad.
I'm sorry.
It's alright.
I thought it just does relate though, because it's like.
Oh yeah.
I can see how it.
Not
Yeah. I
have anxiety about this thing that's coming up. I don't want to deal with it. I just want things to happen, and because of that, I feel like paralyzed, like I can't do anything. I don't know what to do, and I hate feeling like that. So what usually I end up doing is I put off stuff to whatever the last possible moment to have to deal with it is, and then I deal with everything all at once. So it's like this tremendous thing, and then somehow I end up getting past it, skating by. You know, a previous time several years ago where I came close to being evicted because I couldn't pay the rent, and I managed to convince my brother to lend me some money.
Right.
So things like that happen. And it's like everything coming down on me at the same time.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can see how it's more of how a Type 7 would handle it and how they deal with it, especially if they're under stress. They would, look for distractions, ways to distract themselves by doing fun stuff or whatever they can.
Escapism.
Yeah.
Escapism, exactly. Yeah.
And I've got so many things to distract myself with that it's really easy to do that.
Yeah.
Like 50 years ago under the same situation, it probably would have been tougher there still would have been things for me to do, but I mean, not quite as many options at my fingertips,
Yeah. So it's it's not it's obviously not exclusive with Type 7 problems or Type 7 ways of dealing with things, but you can definitely a correlation at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is an important thing to hone in on, that Enneagram Type 7 being a head type, and because it is something that's a bit of a nuance, because people see the Enneagram Type 7 as the fun lover, and most of the time they encounter them, they'll see that, but like when they're on their own, is that usually when it happens, Jonathan, when the E7 is on their own?
It can. Well, it can be, but even if they're with people that, depending on their company and so on, or if they're feeling isolated, that'll be an individual difference. I think they're extroverted. It says that NE DOMs and SE DOMs mostly they're extroverted towards experience. Obviously they can be extroverted toward people, but primarily it's towards experience and stuff. So that's how it works. I've also wondered if your head type, if you could think of 5, 6, and 7 as kind of learning styles or thinking styles, and if all of the types have it, if it's their fix. So I might have a type 5 thinking style or learning style. Someone else might have a 7.
Some people might not know what fix means. It's a Enneagram jargon for that you have
Tri-type.
a 6 in your tri-type, your 3. So for instance, I think I'm 415. So you can say that I'm a 1 fix, a 5 fix. Which means it's in the tri-type. That's a little technical thing, but yeah. So I mean, there is like drill down on this. So it's like, so Enneagram Type 7 is a head type because when they're not enjoying themselves, they're anxious.
Yes.
And apart from the thing that Jeff just mentioned, what are they usually anxious about? What is their thought process of the Enneagram Type 7? Would it help if I showed that diagram of the levels of development?
I suppose. Well, it could really be anything, but it's usually that it's their internal anxieties and their ability to deal with them. So, I guess 5, 6, and 7 are naturally anxious. That's the thing. They've got natural inclination towards anxiety. It's not necessarily, their inclination is not necessarily caused by things happening outside themselves, but the things that happen outside themselves obviously make it worse. So everyone can be anxious, but they're more prone to anxiety than others, and they're less able to deal with it, and their ways of dealing with it reflect their type. So this type 7 way of dealing with anxiety, whether it's for their money problems or their friend problems or whatever, all that. But this actually relates to things exactly what kind of problems they have and how they deal with them. Their way of dealing with it is to deal with their anxiety is to not deal with it, to distract themselves. That's the main thing.
Do they also, like artisans in general, do they have a problem with routine and being bored?
Yes, that can be no problem. Unless the routine is something they enjoy, I suppose, but otherwise than that.
We can do a little thing here where we can see if there's a crossover with artisan theory, in that one of the 3 things of artisans in their self-image is like artistry, adaptability, and audacity. And Jeff likes the phrase, the next action is a free variable. So generally do Enneagram Type 7s like to always be improvise, have that real sense on freedom for the next action, not wanting to be confined or like have expectations on them, or
in general, yeah. I think the healthier they are, the more they can learn to do that, the more they can learn to delay gratification. Is a technical term to put things off and to plan better and to anticipate and to do what they're hoping to do. Rather, because the example reason I was going to give is like if someone wanted to go to Egypt to see the pyramids and was looking forward to it, but when they actually got there, they ended up doing a whole bunch of other stuff and never saw the pyramids. So that could be one of their problems, that they end up they get so easily distracted, and so in the moment that they end up not doing the thing they really want to do.
So Jeff, have you ever had that experience on your trips?
Yeah, I never saw the pyramids.
Have you ever been somewhere where there was something you really wanted to do, but you ended up not doing it because you get so easily distracted?
Probably.
No.
I mean, I can think of There was one thing I didn't get to do on my last trip to Disney World, but it wasn't really because I was distracted. It was because my son did a thing that took too long, and then we didn't have time to. I had to make a choice whether I was going to eat something or wait for him to get off the ride and then run over fast to the other side of the park so we'd have time to ride the ride before it closed. And I decided I would go ahead and eat.
What was the ride?
Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.
Oh, that's not bad. I like Space Mountain. I prefer Space Mountain myself.
I like Big Thunder Mountain better, but I have ridden it before, so it wasn't like I never had. It's just I just wanted to do one more time. It wanted to be the last thing we did, and then we didn't have time. So that wasn't really about being distracted.
Yeah, good. All right. Probably not the best example of it, but there you go.
Well, yeah, I'm too distracted to come up with examples.
Yeah. So. But I'm sure the audience gets the idea.
Yeah. We're almost taking advantage of Jeff's life situation at the moment to like show what the inner workings of the Enneagram 7.
That's like the ideal, right? Being real life example of things.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
That's what he's here for.
That's the whole point of typology, is to show its strengths and its limitations by always relating it to reality.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, what I would say was that the thing that I have the most like disconnect when I read Type 7 profiles is things that say like they are always like thinking about the future or whatever, and that's not true for me. So I think that may be more like like you were saying, like the NFPs or the NTPs that are Type 7s maybe do that more.
Maybe it could also be more of a healthy level of health, like ideally there. Or I think it's more actually they're anticipating what to do next. That's what they're talking about. Not necessarily thinking far ahead. More like
I do get like ideas of things that would be cool to do. So I mean, if it's just talking about that, then I relate to it. But I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about like stuff down the road, future plans or things like that.
Yeah.
In fact, it's hard for me to, like, my mother will ask me about things, a couple months away, and she wants like this definitive answer about stuff, and I have a hard time giving that to her because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to feel like doing in 2 months.
And is that the thing? Is it's like maybe there's an anxiety about the future because it's like, hey, I don't want to plan this thing out. All these different things could happen. Is it like that?
Could be like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to have things, commitments, obligations, things that are like stuff I have to do. Like you said before, the thing about next action is a free variable. Like I want to be as free as possible to choose what I do as life goes on. And not have, well, I have to do these 7 or 8 obligations.
Right, and thinking of next action as a free variable, we can do a little overlap with how Kersey described the artisans. Just do this for a few minutes. Like this is a couple of sheets I did a year or so ago, where this was, and we can see the overlap with E7, where we have here. We don't have to look at the speech, but like, yeah, we've got there. Competitive, not cooperative. Next action is a free variable. Yearning for impact. Impulsive, and like being that way. Are any DOMs like that as well, Jonathan? Can they be like impulsive and like being that way?
Well, yeah, they can be. Obviously, I suppose it will vary on individuals, but yeah, I can see that, especially for Type 7 and others.
and I put here like emphasize this for socionics people. It can be about power, cough, ESDP cough, but it's always about freedom.
Mm.
And would you say that like any with the Type 7, that's also about freedom?
Yes, very much so. It's one of the big things. They hate being controlled. They hate being trapped by commitments or whatever. Generally, the healthier they are, and the better off they feel. They're more willing to do that. They're more willing to make commitments and to plan ahead to, if only for their own benefit of those they care about. But ideally, they're in the moment people, or at least normally they're in the moment people.
And I've got there like individualistic, TI and FI, and of course ENTP, TI, ENFP, FI. So always like an introverted judging thing. So like from their own point of view. Yeah, that's right. All of the judging functions within the NE DOMs and SE DOMs are like an individual basis. So it's like someone's own individual logic, someone's own individual feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so all EPs, I would say, like very much individualists to a certain, probably ENFP less so, but and I put some little.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that about ENFPs?
Well, because they're NFs and because they're cooperative, and NFs try to be a bit more. Ooh, a little bit of controversy. I sense a little bit of controversy there. So let's talk about ENFPs then.
Well, yeah, actually, it's the NF thing you said that we don't like being individualists. Or, I mean,
it's another whole can of worms. About this.
I would not associate being cooperative and being kind with not being an individual.
Ah, yeah. This is something.
NT bias right there.
This is something I ask. We'll go back to that in a moment, but this is that can of worms where I asked Jeff about because like Kersey has idealists as cooperative types, and
yeah.
So Jeff, how is that the case? Is it because they want everybody else to get with their own program and cooperate with them? Is that it?
Pass.
Oh no, because this is like a little nuance. It's hard for me to understand. So, for instance, okay, ENFP. How are ENFP?
ENFPs and INFPs are probably the most individualistic of all the NFs as well. That's the other thing.
Well,
I'm not sure which is more individualistic, but those two are probably more.
Well, you put them in a certain environment, they get with the program.
Oh yeah, but so everyone, when you get down to everyone would get to the program eventually, one way or the other.
I think INFPs, like, they're individualistic about like their own feelings, but they have this desire that everybody connects with each other, though. They kind of have that, that idea that there's some utopia out there where everybody's joining hands,
Okay, I'm no exceptions to that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that necessarily all think that that's something right around the corner, but that it's this sort of possible ideal that you should shoot for, is somehow this harmony, thing. And so it's like the individualistic thing comes from like where it's like my feelings matter. You need to respect my viewpoint and not and validate my perspective, but at the same time they still have ideas about how they think the rest of the world should be.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So to me, I don't see it as individualistic from my perspective. And you could call mine SP bias or whatever if you want to, but from my viewpoint, I see it as any time that you have this idea that you want to sort of put on other people for how they should be, then it's not as individualistic.
I wonder if that's true of ISFPs as well, not just necessarily NFPs exclusively. They might both have this thing where they're privately feel that other people should live this particular way.
Yeah, I think ISFPs in comparison to INFPs are more live and let live attitude. That doesn't mean that they don't have ideas about what they think is better, but they don't tend to spend much time talking about or how other people should behave. It's kind of like more like, don't tell me how to behave,
Not sure. That depends on the. I think the sensing subtype of ISFP might be more like that. I'm more thinking that Leon Sal, his last video, one of his last videos was that Bernie Sanders was an ISFP, which I could kind of see. And I'm not saying Bernie Sanders tried to tell people what to do, but definitely he's got strong opinions about how things should be. With ISFPs, with FI DOMs in general, it's more they want to create a world where everyone can be an individual. I don't think the world is allowing that sort of thing. I've also known ENFPs who can get very passionate about stuff. I think some of this relates more to Enneagram than function types, because these aren't really type 7. It's more type 7, I think, that would object to telling people what to do than necessarily ESFP. Because I've known there are ESFPs who can get very political and quite passionate about subjects and stuff, and they're usually type 6s and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's like. I mean, I don't see that as a contradiction.
Well, yeah, but they can get almost to the point of being like INFPs, and maybe they don't put as much thought into it, perhaps.
And believing in things like. I think it's a different way of viewing it still, though. That's the thing, is that's why what sometimes I've said, like, ENFPs are like ESFPs, except they believe in stuff, and that's like my just sort of cliche way of saying that, but it's more like, because it's more about the actual belief for ENFPs, whereas for ESFPs it's always more about the action. So the passion in a belief for an ESFP is in pursuit of something to do, something done, rather than some sort of ideal state of being.
I can kind of see that. I think it's probably a certain amount of subtlety and nuance there, because I don't think ENFPs or INFPs, obviously they really do want things to happen. They want to see this in the world.
Yeah, but it's about thinking that somehow there's this thing you can get to that is ideal, or at least better than how it is now.
Yeah.
When I hear NFPs talk about those things, it's like they talk about it in terms of it's about like this, kind of enlightenment that people need to reach, as opposed to it being as much about solving specific problems.
I kind of see what you mean. I would say I know, and I've listened to ENFPs who do object to some of the stuff you're talking about, who generally I think they are type 7s. So again, I think it's as much of an Enneagram thing there. I would say it's more that SPs tend to be more, ESPs especially, to be more short-sighted, for lack of a better word. So like they're thinking more short-term sort of thing.
Yeah, now. That's a Kersey thing. They live in the now.
Yeah, maybe not the direct now, but maybe more, a few months down the line or a few years at most. That's what they're going for. But they're focused on more specific problems rather than the big picture. I think we're getting off topic a bit.
Yeah, this is relevant in terms of so for instance with ESFPs, like Kersey called them the performer, and it's like, and again that is it's a type of escape, I suppose. It's like being somebody else or in a different role. And do you think that's like an Enneagram 7 thing, Jonathan? That's like almost escaping yourself. or being someone else, being out of yourself?
That actually strikes me as more maybe type 3 or type 9 there. So
I'll ask Jeff. So Jeff, you talked before about
I mean,
when you're like improvising in the moment or like acting in the moment. You said that is that like your favorite thing ever?
Yeah, I mean that's when I feel it's that or it sounds like a paradox, but it really isn't. Like when I feel the most myself is when I'm not really being myself in a sense, like when I'm performing something. And it doesn't necessarily mean have to be something, that's like a specific scripted character or something. But the idea is like I can still be. I think that's like the ultimate freedom is to be in a situation where you can improvise in whatever situation you're thrust into. So it's like you're dropped into this character, and then you be this character and deal with whatever the things that come up are in the way that character would. And that's the kind of role playing that I enjoy, which is why a lot of things that call themselves role playing are such a letdown, because they don't really give you the opportunity to do that, because you have these people in charge of things like that are more about rules, or they're more about numbers, or they have these other agendas or other things that are most important to them, whereas the actual being within the moment and making these decisions and reacting in character is like less important to them, whereas to me that's like the number one thing.
Jeff, I think you mentioned going to a comedian's show and being in the front row and like being involved. And what were the sort of things that you got to do in that situation?
Well, there was one time, I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but there was one time when I was like 16 or whatever. I actually brought my mom to a show for her birthday, and there was a stand-up comedian that and we were close enough that he started talking about it. So it was like basically he was making jokes implying that she was my date, like or that sort of making fun of my mother for having like such a young date or something. He was trying to make jokes about that. There was another time we saw Kevin Nealon, where that time I was really in the front row. I was hoping that he would engage us in some way, but he didn't. But he does do that in a show where like he'll do things with the audience, like he'll ask them questions and then he'll use it to. One of the funny things he does is he'll tell a story, but then he'll do that thing where it's kind of like a live Mad Lib, because he'll be telling the story. He'll say, I went down to the, what's that thing called? And then somebody in the audience yells something out like, rodeo or something. Rodeo, yeah, that was it. And I saw this, what do you call those guys with the big ears? And somebody will be like, a dentist, because the idea is to throw out stuff that's not what he's asking for, and then he'll take that and put it in the story. So stuff like that is fun, And he does the Mr. Subliminal thing too, where he says one thing to him, then he says something else under his breath, like he looks like your boyfriend's a fine, upstanding man, meth dealer. So it's like little things like that. But, so I was hoping he would say something to us, but he didn't in the show.
Did you get involved with was there a show where you did get involved with some improvisation? On stage?
Yeah, like the last time I went to the Texas Renaissance Festival, I got to be part of the Dead Bob show, which I'd seen that show lots of times before, but that was the first time I actually got called on to be on stage. Yeah, his thing is there's not a whole lot of opportunity for improv in that, because he always tells the same story. So the only thing you can really do is sort of do your own kind of like facial expressions or act out with. Because you're limited as to he's telling the story of what you're doing, so it's only a matter of like what you do with it in that time. So I did have fun with it though.
Thank you. At the moment we have two live viewers on the live stream. So props to Jeff and Jonathan to holding an audience. So Jeff mentioned it a little bit before about being in the moment. Just quickly look at this. So like this is more the Sensenkai E7s. I suppose I'll just click on my square. And so yeah, and this might be a general E7 thing. Live in the now, variety is a spice of life, stimulation, and then Dario on SP is they take tangible action relevant to the moment and current situation. They trust their impulses and have a drive to action. They learn best experientially, and when they see the relevance of what they are learning to what they are doing. They enjoy hands-on applied learning with a fast pace and freedom to explore. And then a little thing, concrete in word usage and utilitarian stroke pragmatic in tool usage, meaning they use the best tool for the job, approved or not.
And then he has his reminder to go to his PTO meeting at the top of the paper.
Yes, please turn over, yes. Yeah.
No, I thought it was parent-teacher
So-
organization.
No.
Oh.
Yep.
Once you're a parent, then that's what PTO means.
No, we don't know.
Oh, I thought it was PTA.
Maybe it's PT
That's
over
slightly
here.
different. Yeah.
Slightly different.
Yeah. I'll go with that though. Right. So we can do a little bit of thing where we can talk about, because Jeff's got experience of at least one ENFP in depth. What were the sort of things that she would just like things you've experienced in real life where you can see the difference in ENFP and ESFP, Jeff? I mean, I know you mentioned like believing and stuff, but like in the sort of things that they want to do or anything like that.
Yeah, well, ENFPs will get like a idea about something and just be really focused on this is like the greatest idea ever and it's going to work and we're going to do all these wonderful, great things with it. And it's like this balloon filling up, and if anybody like doesn't get with that and says, oh, your plan won't work or your idea has flaws, whatever, then it's like popping the balloon. They get all like down, like that not everybody's on board with the program. I think ESFPs were more singularly focused on activities or actions than on ideas. You know, and like I said, I have ideas about stuff that'd be cool to do, but it's always about like, you know, the activity itself as opposed to the idea.
I think Jonathan's just heeding nature's call. Yeah. We will always excuse people who have to go. Nature calls, sometimes extremely loudly. So yeah, I think we're doing quite well. We're doing quite well in this hangout so far.
Oh, fastest nature call ever. I was turning the heating on and it's getting a bit chilly. That was all.
Yeah, he lives in Scotland, you know.
It's been really. It's actually been really warm quite recently, but now it's like now I feel a bit chilly. It's unpredictable, damn unpredictable weather. It was roasting last week, but now it's chilly again.
Oh, it's lovely last
We're
week.
getting into the time of year around here where it's very predictable. The only thing that's not quite sure of is when we're going to get rain and storms and stuff, but the temperature-wise, it's going to be hot.
Oh, Jeff, you once mentioned something about. So it's like go back to your like greatest hits and like mention things you mentioned before, but it's like you talked about. I think that the different ways in which ESFPs and ENFPs get distracted. I think it's like ESFPs are they distracted by external things, and ENFPs will distract themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's in general what it seems like is that it's like ENFPs it's idea to idea and ESFPs it's like action to action.
right then. So, Jonathan, have you got anything to add about differences between like your SE DOMs and your NE DOMs in relation to Enneagram Type 7?
Well, as Jeff says, usually the type of things they want to distract themselves with. I mean, I'm pretty sure they all like Disneyland. Maybe except the ESTP. I'm not sure they would. And they probably like it, but not as much as the other three. Yeah, so it's the sort of thing you'd find them interested in. So ENPs will probably be more interested in stories. I think ENFPs are more interested in stories in particular, and then more interesting, maybe more intellectual-ish stuff, or the history of something they enjoy, or really weird, unusual things. I can think of a few YouTubers who I've seen and in some cases met that are, I think, are E7s, but I don't want to get into details. ENTP7s are also probably more likely to be into science and technology than ENFP7s, although ENFPs can be into, they can of course be into science and scientific stuff. I just think that's more of an ENFP. I think it's more of an ENFP 6 thing than an ENFP 7 thing. Personally, or other types.
So if we like, do you see any differences between like your SE DOMs and NE DOMs in like when they in like? I mean, we'll do like a separate hangout in future on the levels of development, but like in the ways they can go unhealthy, so-called unhealthy, as Jeff doesn't.
Probably more. Yes, but I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, fair enough. Right, so do you think now it's the right time to transition to the instinctual variants?
Yes.
Right. So I think we did a good intro there. Right, so now I'll zoom in a little bit. I mean, these like Nick Helbig diagrams do seem to be like just throw everything at the wall that you can think of. Unless, there we go. I'll click on that for a bit. So, so Jonathan, if you talk about for our audience and Jeff and for me, if you talk about in general, what is the self-preservation variant?
Self-preservation variant is basically being concerned with, you know, the house, the job, the immediate family, close friends, the maybe hobbies, interests, maybe health and fitness. I think it's the most self-explanatory of the three types. Like, you're just in your immediate self-preservation concerns, things that, you know, your immediate circle, regardless of your MBTI type. What's your? From my point of view, it's almost like you contrast it with the other two. It's easy to see. It's like they're not. I'm not saying they won't have social opinions on social matters, or they won't have love interests or anything like that, or causes, whatever. But they're generally focused on, you know, their immediate material needs, or their immediate psychological needs, or their own personal needs, really, and the personal needs of those of their immediate circles. So when you translate that to Enneagram 7, this has been described as, I've seen Self-preservation sevens is the counter type of sevens, and I've seen in Chestnut is actually described as the most materialistic seven. I'm not sure how
Right.
true that holds, but she describes it as someone who would, for example, want to be really rich, want to have a lot of money so they can have fun.
One thing. Sorry for the interruption. Counter types. Some of the audience might not know what that means.
Basically, it's the odd one out in each of the instinctual variants. So for type 1, it's the sexual, because that's the most in touch.
So is the self-pres E7 the odd one out?
Actually, no, I got that wrong. I got that completely wrong. It's social sub. It's the social one, social 7 that's wrong. This counter type. I made a gaff. Social 7 is the counter type. I'm an idiot.
That doesn't make much sense.
Social 7 is
think of like
social 7 is the least. Social 7 is the least selfish 7. That's the thing.
I'm thinking social. Are you thinking social in terms of like the SJ kind of social thing?
They're not. They're not sociable. They're more interested in social issues and social matters.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. That's in Chestnut and that's in Naranjo, I think. I think Riso Nud's a different take on it.
Right, we don't want to get too much in the weeds. So you talked about self-pres thing. I got slightly distracted because I got a message from someone who's an Enneagram person to see if they might join. Someone we all three of us know. She may or may not join. She also is an Enneagram buff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. She asked me where that tree diagram was from. I'll just say Nick Helbig. Actually, I won't say that because then she'll go there. I want to come here instead. Ooh, manipulative. Right.
Hopefully, she doesn't see this recording.
Oh, darn it! Right.
The video evidence.
Oh no. So yeah, you've talked about the self-pres. Okay, you talked about. While I was distracted, you did talk about self-pres in general.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you talk about, Jonathan, how an ESFP can be an E7 self-pres? How is that possible?
Well, any of the EP types can be self-pres. Just want to make that clear. Self-pres first. ESFP's 7s are just... And I imagine they're more common because I think self-pres types are usually sensors rather than intuitives in general. And ENFPs are very rarely self-preservation types, periods. But so self-pres ESFP. I don't know, what's Jeff's variance? Does Jeff know?
We can try and find out. If you ask him the appropriate questions, we can try and find that out.
Jeff, do you know what your instincts are?
Yeah, my instincts are to eat and sleep.
Okay. I could be self-preservation.
Well, when I've done like online tests that determine that, I always end up with the sexual one. If I look at just the words on this thing, and say some combination between the first two.
Yeah. So either SP, SX, or SX, SP. Yeah. Usually the first one's what you want, and the second's what you're more comfortable with, what you find easiest. The first one will usually hurt you the most if you lose it.
Well, I mean, I'm definitely opportunistic. Monkey mind.
What does that mean?
I think that means, but
some of this sounds quite ENP. To be honest, the monkey mind seems more like ENTPs, or sort of like, mischievous but creative.
I don't think I live in fantasy. I wish I could, though. So maybe that's a desire thing, but I don't
Yeah,
really.
these
get it.
I don't think these are the best descriptions, to be
Yeah.
honest. So okay, maybe you should put these away for a moment, Ben, and
Okay.
Put them away.
put them
Well,
away.
if you
Get
want
'em
to
out of my
furnish me
sight.
with if you want to furnish me with better graphics,
Oh,
go
well,
ahead.
I'm thinking more that it can be better to figure out your instincts without looking at your
Right. Okay. So
type first. So
So now, Jonathan, I'll put tiny bit of pressure on you, as I would love you to ask Jeff some questions to nuance and get to the base of his instincts.
Yeah, do that. Because I like answering questions about myself.
what are you more interested in? Relationships? Are you more interested in money or getting a good job and being secure?
Relationships.
Relationships, you're.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you were in a relationship you were really invested in that didn't work out, you'd be devastated. Whereas if you were in a job that you really liked and was providing you and you lost it, would that be less devastating?
Well, I mean, losing a job is scary
Yeah.
because I don't know what's going to happen next.
Uh-huh.
But a relationship's much more important than a job.
Yeah, I would say Jeff sounds SXSP to me. Or yeah, probably SXSP. Those are the two things. So it's not necessarily about having friends or not. So I mean, how do you feel about social types? Are usually able to figure out hierarchies. Like if they join a group, they can usually quickly tell the social hierarchy, so they can tell who's in charge, who's more famous or not, who's got the most social pull. Do you identify with that?
I don't know.
No.
I think maybe Jonathan's talking about what SFJs do and SJs in general.
No, social first and social second are usually able to figure out the social dynamics and the social politics of a situation, regardless of their Myers-Briggs thing. So,
And I was just sort of giving a comparison because SJs tend to be good at that.
I'm not good at the social networking stuff, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can see other people do it, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not good at it
You're not
myself.
good at it. Okay, SXSP would be my guess then. So, yeah. As I said, SP first, so SPSX and SPSO, they tend to be more materialistic. Some descriptions describe them as quite driven to the point of.
Yeah, I think.
I would say.
I told Ben before. I think my favorite soap opera character, Tina from One Life to Live. She's a self-preservation type 7.
Yeah.
Because she's trying to get status within the family and jewels and stuff, and I don't really care as much about that. To me, I mean, I say all the time, somebody says, what do you need, and I'm like, give me a big stack of cash. So I do desire that, but it's in order to be able to do things with it, not for status reasons.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That your second instinct, the one you're most comfortable with, is more of a means to an end. I tend to think of it as. So if the end was to get money itself,
I see. That's good.
Then
that makes sense.
Yeah. So if the end of it was to get money in itself or something, then probably more self-pres stuff. But
no,
yeah, I think
it doesn't having money itself doesn't really give me any kind of comfort or anything. It's for me, it's it goes back to the freedom thing. I would like to have an infinite supply of money just so I could choose what I did in the next moment, not because the money itself provided me any kind of feeling of security in any way.
Yeah, okay.
And I have no desire to live in some huge mansion somewhere or something. That I would rather travel around different places and explore new things.
Yeah.
Than be stuck in some.
Yeah. So you'd rather live in motel rooms with different hotel room every night than a mansion.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, I'd rather live at Disney World. I could spend like a good 20 years exploring, just living in different Disney hotels. But I might go out and go some places in between. But yeah, it's to me, money is like it's what it is. It's currency. It's something to acquire something else, acquire opportunities, and not have to be tied down to something. Like, I mean, my job is not a difficult job, but I still get bored with it really easily, and I don't want to be there. I want to be doing something more fun.
Mm. Yeah, so money is more of a means to an end than an end in itself. Yeah. Okay. Probably self-preservation second, or not self-pres first then. No, SXSP sounds right, and I would say Jeff's also. It says that SX7s are dreamers. I'd say that Jeff's he's got that dreamy tone, to his voice. He's got that kind of laid back, not quite stoned, but or maybe he is. I don't know.
It's what you hear is the compassion in my voice. That's what that is.
Yeah.
I've had people tell me I have like a soft voice, but not like effeminate or anything, but just like
soft man. Yeah. I know
that they can hear like a certain amount of sensitivity in my voice, and like I would agree with that.
Yeah. I feel like saying SXSP is right. So SXSP is looking. I think sexual sevens are looking primarily for someone they can have fun with.
Yeah.
Or someone.
That.
Or.
This is an example of how this can make certain quadra values look silly. So, for instance, gamma quadra with the SFP, like if you're like looking at people as just functions, it's like, oh, they value TE, therefore, and if you were just basing it on that, it was like you would make them self-pres.
Yeah.
Whereas this is what I think so to me, Enneagram will override, is more important than, and sometimes more important than your Jungian type, because it really is what you want.
Yeah.
Like a conative model, and Kersey is also a conative model where it's based around motivations.
Is that how you pronounce that? I always thought it was cognitive.
Oh no, I learned that word from Dario, conative.
Conative.
When it's about motivation.
Oh, it's different from cognitive. Okay, cool.
Oh yeah, and also, folks,
I need to remember that word.
Yeah. I learned that from Dario, and he mentioned it if you'd have watched the Hangout number 10, where on SPs where he talks about artisans and guardians. On the essential motivators, you would have learned that. So you naughty boy, you've not watched it. You need to watch all of it.
I may have watched it and forgot it.
Yeah, like if I could take both of you to Disney World, and we would hang out there. So.
I wouldn't hang out. I wouldn't hang out. I'd be off riding raids.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously do that, but there's sometimes you got to stop and like eat something or have an ice cream cone or something,
See.
But, I mean.
Yeah.
Maybe you're more hardcore than I am, and you're like, I'm gonna ride rides till I drop.
What I would like sit on a bench and like take photos of you on the rides.
I actually get really scared of roller coasters. I like roller coasters, but it's the ones that go spinning around upside down. I
get like motion sickness, and so
I'm
actually
fine when I'm on them. I'm fine with I'm on them, but before that, I'm just going. I'm going to die. I'm going to die.
There's a little. I don't know if there's on an American version of this, but I think Jeff would love it. Where they did it thing on Jim Will Fix It, where they had like Cub Scouts, and they put them on a roller coaster of them eating food while still going through the roller coaster. It's such a funny thing.
That I wouldn't do.
It's getting all food on their face, these little kids, and I'm just laughing so much.
Face for me, it was like I wouldn't want to get stomachache from it,
And they've
That
just
would
had
be
so
amazing.
much fun. These like Cub Scouts, these little girls and boys about 8 years old, trying to have the food, going all over the. They really enjoyed it. I think lots of parents would like that.
Yeah, well, that's why I like the ones that are like sort of combination. Like you have like water parks, and then you have the ones that are there's no water. And I like the hybrid thing. Like Disney's got the thing that's like the River Rapids ride, where like you're riding a ride, and it's not underwater. You're not in the water, but you get splashed with the water, like because you go down like a waterfall type thing, stuff like that. And so that's fun. And then at Universal they have one that's like the Dudley Do Right ride or something, where it's the same thing. You go down this chute into the water, but it's not like you're inside the water. You just hit the thing water with the like canoe thing you're in. You're like in a log ride kind of thing. Flume, I think they call it, something like that. And there's another one that's like Jurassic Park or something maybe, and it's the same.
Yeah.
You're in like a bigger vehicle, but you go down this like sort of water slide thing.
Yeah.
I like stuff like that.
Ben, not to change the tone, was that? Did you ever fix it as a memory you have, or did you actually watch that recently?
No, it's a memory I have.
Okay, good. Good.
Because we won't go into him, but,
Yeah.
but basically what happened was he said roller coasters, and it reminded me of the thing at Alton Towers. The kids going around and the food going everywhere.
Alton Towers is great, right? Alton Towers kind of like they're almost like they're experimenting with different rides, with crazy things like Oblivion, where you just go straight down vertical. That was cool. It was scary. I'm proud of myself for going in that.
Right. So
I still need to go on Nemesis one day.
the fathers have called. I think they're pronounced the fathers. Is that right, Jonathan?
No.
Anyway, we'll go with the fathers. In their first video, they are terrible teleprompter readers. They're awful. It's like,
But you see that every time you mention them. So that's
yeah, I know, but then they take a caption of that and use it on their YouTube page. But they get better in subsequent.
They have feelings. They don't need constantly reminded.
I know. I felt bad when I think the woman gave me a nice reply, and I thought, oh no, I should have been critical. But anyway, they call the sexual type the one-to-one.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jonathan, maybe you could tell us about that, the one-to-one connection of the sexual type.
Yeah, they
Tell us
want
more about that.
sexual. I would say it's probably more SXSP than SXSO personally. I think, but they can both have elements of that. But
There's got to be like a better way to abbreviate those things, because it's just tough. I mean, just even listening to you say that, it's like, it sounds awkward.
it's
Gotta be a
called.
better way.
The people have tried to have different names. Other people call it the transmitter and so on. So basically, a sexual type. And the way they're describing
Maybe
it.
even just drop the S off, because they all start with S, and just say XP or XO or something, because that at least it kind of flows a little better. Whereas every time you say the S, it's like, it just gets all like mixed together.
I find it easier to remember that way personally. Anyway,
Right.
what I mean here is they want to merge with someone. Like they want to find their ideal other and become one with them if they can. That could be. That's usually, obviously, that can be a person. It can also be a cause or maybe a location or project. But
Jonathan, you have Beatrice Chestnut's book.
yes,
Is there a little bit you could read out from the 7 sexual type? And then we can ask Jeff Harry what he thinks of what you read out.
all right. As I think I've said,
So when you read it out, if you leave little pauses every now and then, it might give Jeff a chance to get in and comment on the bits. that you're saying from the description.
Alright. As I said, I think the diagram you showed is basically the cows in the same place. Naranjo.
Oh, do you want me to put it? I can put it back on.
Alright. Okay. Sexual 7, suggestibility. It's called. Individuals with the sexual 7 subtype are gluttons for things in the higher world, for optimistically seeing things as they could be in the ideal world of their imaginations. Sexual 7s are dreamers with a need to imagine something better than stark, ordinary reality. These 7s have a passion for embellishing everyday reality, for being too enthusiastic, and for idealizing things and seeing the world as better than it actually is. Their gluttony gets expressed as a need for idealization. Okay?
Wait a minute. Now, you know it says there, loyalty of the snake. Oh, I
That's it.
wonder which type that's talking about. Is it the type I'm always castigating on my channel?
Perhaps.
ENTP!
Well, that just says like less healthy traits in general.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. ESTP as well, I suppose.
yeah. Anyway, so we'll continue.
Yeah.
Right. Sexual 7s are not as interested in the things of this world as they are in the things of a more highly advanced dimension. They look in the skies and escape from the earth. They are more heavenly than earthly. People with something are light-hearted enjoyers with a need to dream and to idealize and embellish the ordinary. In line with this tendency, they can be very idealistic and somewhat naive.
That sounds like an ENFP.
Yeah, it sounds more
E7.
I can see there's a bit in the other types as well. It's more, maybe not the more of the, in the more grounded sense, they can be more idealistic though.
I think someone needs to do an Enneagram book where they split it, where this is what the sensing type of this is like, this is what the abstract type this is like.
Yeah. These 7s tend to look at things with the optimism of somebody who is in love. Everything looks better when you are in love, and the sexual 7 takes refuge in this kind of ideal. Positive experience is a way of unconsciously avoiding what might be unpleasant in life. They focus on a highly positive view of life to distract themselves from the uncomfortable or scary emotions they would rather remain unaware of. It is said that... Yeah.
Jonathan.
Yes.
Some Americans, I won't name any names, might have a slight problem with your accent, so if you slowed it down a little bit, maybe there won't be any problems for people.
Okay.
Okay.
It is said that love is blind. Naranjo contends that sexual 7s may be said to be blind in the same sense. They display a bit too much enthusiasm and optimism and pay disproportionate attention to the positive data in a situation. These 7s could fall in love very intensely, and they relate to their world through dreaming and imagination. They imagine what the world could be, and they believe this optimistic view is real. In this way, sexual 7s express a need to fantasize, a need to dream, or a need for rose-colored glasses. These 7s have a tendency to be too happy. They display a need to live in a charmed reality, to fantasize, to live in a world they create in their mind rather than the actual external world. This can be seen as an overcompensation that reflects an unconscious desire to deny or avoid the painful or boring or frightening parts of life. Sexual 7s tend to experience an underlying fear of getting stuck in these kind of feelings and so take refuge in optimism.
One thing we can mention is, Jeff, you've got a big interest in soaps, haven't you?
Sometime.
Yeah, you have.
Not at the moment.
What were the reasons that drew you to soaps beside hot chicks?
Probably just like continuing story where there's always a cliffhanger because there's always like it's continued, and so it's not like wrapped up in a neat little thing after an hour or 30 minutes or whatever. I like continuing stories. I like character development. There's lots of opportunities for characters to do exciting stuff.
Right. So, Jonathan, we heard your clicks there. Are you looking at anything in particular?
Yes, Facebook.
Yeah, because
Sorry.
for people, because when you do it on a laptop,
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
yeah, right. So
I got a couple of messages with just see what they were. Sorry.
yep. Okay, right.
See,
Okay.
I'm average 7 going to type 1 going to average 7.
Right.
Uh,
But that idea of, it's like, I've watched certain, when I was young, I watched like certain Doctor Who stories, and I was like sad that they ended. But I suppose with like a soap, is it continues, and so maybe like Jeff, it's like a world you can get into that like continues.
Yeah. I like that part of it because it's like, you know, you can have several different stories going on at the same time, and you can have like, you know, you sort of, you could take a break from these characters, but then you have other characters filling the void. So it's not quite as you know, it's not. I think it's more. It feels like more real because when you have a bigger cast, you have like big families or other things involved. That it's like you get that feeling like there's stuff going on other than with this few people. Whereas a lot of shows they focus on like, you know, one family or one small group of people, and it's sort of very self-contained, you know, or claustrophobic, feeling like everything is always just centered in this one little corner of the universe instead of there being other stuff going on.
Do you also like, of course, the sexual thing being one-to-one? That's about relationships, and also you like all the relationships stuff that you get in soaps. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, it's one of the, you know, genres, I guess you could say, where it's more about the dialogue than it is the
Yeah.
plot.
Yeah.
Because you know some of the plots, when you really break them down, are kind of silly. But they ramp up the action at times, you know, when they need something dramatic to happen to sort of give, you know, more action. But a lot of it is dialogue between people. It's conversations, and you learn a lot about the characters that way from what they say about each other and to each other.
So this isn't self-indulgent, but to actually ask Jeff about the things he likes actually reveals little things about him. So, for instance, you've got the continuity of soaps, but why do you like Doctor Who, Jeff? Like a series that has quite a bit of variety in it.
Um, I don't know. There's like a lot of different, like you said, there's a lot of variety. So it depends on what it is. But I like stuff that's fun, you know, and a lot of Doctor Who is fun.
Yeah.
I like mystery stuff, like you said earlier, and so I like stories where like the Doctor has to figure something out, just to kind of put clues together to sort of figure out what the problem is and how to solve it, you know. And there's different characters that all sort of have their perspective on what they encounter and have to sort of figure it out as they go. Like take a story like Planet of Giants, where you know, they have to figure out, you know, they're encountering all this stuff that's like, you know, giant matchboxes and things like. So at first they think, you know, well, they doesn't occur to them that they are a different size. They just figure that this is something that's been built. It's some sort of exhibition of giant stuff. And then they have to sort of put the clues together and figure out that, you know, actually they're shrunk down to size and they're actually on Earth and they're just miniature. So, and so they, you know, they kind of have those things that they have to do to figure it out. You know, you get good moments like Ian saying, "Now this is really baffling," you know. So and you know, and little comedy moments along the way and stuff like that. So.
Oh, and if people want a good example is a great story by Robert Holmes, Carnival of Monsters. I think it's the first episode, Jeff, that has that wonderful ending. And I won't spoil it for people. It sort of brings together the two threads, doesn't it, of the alien planet and then the Doctor being inside a ship, and the two storylines come together. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was cool. Very wonderful ending to episode 1.
I was to say there's a few versions of the Doctor are Type 7. I'm thinking,
Well,
not every version of the Doctor, but quite a few. And the show overall can be very Type 7 at times.
well, he is an ENTP.
Yeah. Yeah, in general. So I would say Matt Smith and David Tennant special would strike me as that. Probably
Oh.
Matt Smith.
Jeff, I think Jeff said before, do you think that Tom Baker's ENFP?
I don't know. Could be.
I could find it, actually. A second.
Well, I mean, speculation.
Yeah, I mean that would be my guess if I had to, but I'm not an expert on on him or anything. But I think from stuff that I heard of him and about him, I would say that's a good chance. Whereas I think John Pertwee was probably in ESFP.
Oh, one thing that Jeff's a big fan of is what are your thoughts on music? I know you don't like me getting too Jeff. What is your favourite kind of music?
Fun music.
Any particular era?
Well, I mean, probably the very favorite is like late 80s, early 90s. I think that's true for most things. Like, I guess it's because that was my teenage years, so it's like music, TV, movies, all the stuff from that era is like my favorites for the most part.
Oh yeah, I mean, because like Jeff was like really into music, like he had countdown shows and all that. Did you like make your own countdown shows? Do your own? Ah. So how did that go then? What was the process like?
Of what specifically?
Well, like how you would make them, like how much you're into it, that sort of thing. Would you like record your own like intros for the music and that kind of stuff?
Oh, well, I did. I recorded 2 complete countdowns of my own chart. That was like early 2000s. And then I wrote for a show that was actually on an internet radio station that doesn't exist anymore, but it was GorillaForce.com is what it was called. But I wrote the weekly top 20 countdown show. I didn't host that one, but I made the script.
Mm.
And that was really close to being picked up by a radio network, and then it fell through because the parent company decided they were going to focus on something else, so they discontinued it.
Yeah, so once you start rattling around, Jonathan, you can switch your mic back on. I wonder what's going on there. And then we've got a couple of things left of
Sorry,
Jeff's.
I thought I did turn the micro off.
Okay. And then as folks will know, we've been reviewing Homicide with Jeff. What do you love so much about Homicide, Jeff?
I really like the characters and the dynamics between the characters and like the kind of formula of like, they work as partners, but there's, whoever takes the call is the primary detective, and then they have, the different social aspects between the characters because they talk about like their life off the job, and they talk sort of like about their philosophies of stuff, then they're in the car driving to and from crime scenes or to interview witnesses or things like that. And, and it kind of explores like the human side of things, which is always like my favorite thing. I don't like numbers and stuff being boiled down to statistics or things like that. I like I like stuff where you get the human relationships and side of things, you know, and explore how things affect people, and change them over time, or show how they stay the same over time, depending on the case. You know, it shows what things are your consistent kind of hardcore values versus the things that are more changeable as you go through different experiences.
Jonathan, I hope you're in the zone and not doing your Facebook messages.
I'm in the zone. I was checking
No?
I was checking to see Tom Baker's MBTI type. I can't find
Okay,
anything.
fair enough. That
I
is
can't find anything.
okay. So, interestingly enough, Jeff, you do have some. I think you're interested sometimes in some nerdy elements, like some nerdy elements of the show. Is that correct?
What do you mean by that?
Well, like the little details and procedures in Homicide: Life on the Street, and then sometimes with.
I wouldn't describe that as nerdy, but because like I said,
I ain't got a better word. I'm sorry.
It's not. Well, it's more about the well, like you said, procedure. I don't think procedure itself is nerdy. It's just like it's sort of it's sort of a decoration. It's a structure of something. It's sort of the foundation of something. Like, so it explores how things can be really haphazard, but you still have this thing that you can sort of rely on. You know, in the first episode, G says, the board, you know, you know exactly where you stand. How many things in life can you say that about? So it's like stuff like that. I enjoy the interplay between, like, you know, the different ranks. It's like, you know, you have your uniform officers, and you have sergeants, you have detectives, you have lieutenant, you have captain, colonel. You know, you have these sort of things that are like built into the system that are, you know, interesting. How people sort of proceed on a ladder, but then some people don't. Like, some people want to move up to this thing. That's what they like. In the last episode that you and I watched, you know, the commissioner was saying some people just want to climb the ladder, you know, as opposed to being good at where they're at. And Pembleton is like, you know, I thought, you know, he was being true to himself by staying as a detective when he was offered a promotion, because he didn't want to just sit around doing paperwork and messing with politics with the bosses. He wanted to, his expertise, or his zone, was, you know, in the box where he can get confessions and you know, he can bring things to a close. That's what he's best at. Is he connects with people, you know, both victims and perpetrators, you know, and it's like he's doing a service that way, but it's also sort of a performance, but he's doing it for, you know, true to himself, as opposed to just moving up for the sake of moving up. So I like those, the exploration of those things too.
I've added something here. Identification. I think that's a big thing for you. So it's like SP characters that you can identify with. So there's ESFP Tina and ESFP Pembleton.
Yeah. I like shows that, you know, I guess this is probably true for a lot of people of different types, that I like things that get our type right, in terms of, it's not we're not just stock stereotype characters, like, oh, well, that's the stupid frat boy type, or that's this, you know, they explore the character, like, in different things that somebody of our type could do with their life, and how that personality still comes out in the things they do, even if they're not stereotypical. Like we've talked about with Pembleton, like, you know, that he's not, you know, he wouldn't fit into those profile stereotypes of, oh, it's the, like, party animal dude or whatever, because that's not him. But when you watch the show, and he gives you over and over again his perspective on life, and you see what he's good at, then it's hard to say that he's anything else, because it demonstrates it. And so to me, he's a great example of somebody that busts up the stereotypes of having to be this this one way of being, you know, because you see what his motivations and his preferences are, but you see it play out in the circumstances of his life, and see how that manifests himself for somebody that's like an intelligent professional person.
Was he one of the characters that was based on a real person?
Yes. Though obviously the book does not delve into as much of his personal life and stuff as the show does eventually. But yeah, it was based on a real-life detective in Baltimore named Harry Edgerton, who was from New York and didn't like to work with a partner because he has his own way of doing things.
And also, you had a lot of identification with Tina in One Life to Live.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think the main difference between me and Tina, other than, you know, superficial circumstances, is that she was more focused on materialistic things, and I think it fits with that self-preservation idea, because, you know, she never knew her father growing up, so she had, you know, a certain void there, I think, that she sort of filled with this idea that she had to achieve something in her life, like she came from nothing and she felt like she had to reach some sort of point where she had arrived or she found her place in the world or something like that.
Are you almost at the point where I wish I didn't know my father?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Well, because that you've told about that it was a negative experience.
I don't have any reason to believe I would have been better off when I didn't have a father.
All right, okay. Right.
In fact, I think my father, being how he was, is part of why I can appreciate a lot of simple things that I might not have.
Oh, good. Right. Another aspect of Jeff, besides talking about baseball, is interesting things like when he was a kid, being interested in, what is it, in encyclopedia and learning about different countries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked all the little stuff about countries, like, you know, their flag and what kind of government they had, and, you know, what kind of products or, you know, agriculture they had and stuff, and geography, all that kind of stuff, you know, climate.
Oh, you also
that's why one of the reasons I hate that song Imagine, where he says Imagine there's no countries. Like, I love countries. I think it'd be so boring if everybody in the world was just like one thing. You know, there's so many different like cultures within that, and even some of the way that the boundaries of countries have been drawn over the years, and the history behind all that is cool to me. There's so many different interesting elements to it.
And also, when you grew up, your father being a computer expert and your older brother, what was your experience like with computers at a young age? Like seeing the difference between yourself and your father and your older brother, and in terms of like, what was the fun aspect to you of that?
Well, they obviously understood computers a lot better than I did. You know, I liked playing games that were on it. That was my main thing I did with computers when I was a kid. You know? And there were fun games, like there was a story maker or story time or whatever it was called, where you could like write your own story and it would act it out on the screen with little characters. That was fun. They have like a more sophisticated version of that now that Morgan has played, called Scribblenauts, where you can, you know, you make something, you can draw something and put it in the game and stuff, you know.
At one point, I think you said that you envied the ability of your INTP older brother to go into an imaginary world. Is that right?
Yeah, I did.
What was the sort of thing he could do that you found hard to do? Or harder?
Well, I mean, he would just like lie down on his bed and close his eyes, and then he would have all this, he would just do this stuff, you know, and he would tell me about it, how he had this other world he lived in with like his girlfriend or wife or whatever in that world and all the different stuff he encountered. And so it was like, you know, I couldn't maintain something like that because I would always get externally distracted by things too easily. So.
I think you said that you used to tell Morgan stories based on the things in his room.
Yeah. Yeah, when I would tell him like bedtime stories, and then so I would just look around the room, and then I would incorporate stuff because he had stuffed animals, and he had books, and he had toys and stuff. So I would like just start, I would tell a story about something, and incorporate those things around me into a made-up story as I went.
Oh,
Right. Right.
that made me smile. That story.
Right.
What's that?
That made me smile. That sort of thing.
Oh, smile. I thought that you said I made you smell. I was like, what?
No, smell. I smell bad enough on my own. You don't need to make.
Right.
I know it. I've actually farted at least once in this hangout. Never.
Thanks for the update. This video of everybody, we give you the raw truth,
Yeah.
Right. So, another thing you used to do, Jeff, was you did the bulletin board stuff and all that kind of thing, didn't you? When the internet was first out there, before the web, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
And
we used to like call into local bulletin board stuff. And my brother or my dad would always show me stuff like that. Like I wouldn't have known about any of that on my own. They just had to introduce me to it.
oh yeah, I mean, 'cause, in them days you had to do like use the actual phone, and it was quite expensive.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to stay on it very long, but normally, I mean, like if it was up to me, like I'd rather go outside and play football, but nobody wanted to play with me a lot of the time, so I was kind of stuck figuring out their stuff because they wouldn't join mine.
Right
I'm not trying to make Jonathan sad again by saying that.
So, Jonathan, based on what you've heard about Jeff's interests, and he also likes baseball, but and all the traditions and all the varieties in the different playing fields and all that kind of stuff. Based on that, Jonathan, have you any questions for Jeff?
I can't really think of any. The main thing that surprises me, but it doesn't really surprise me, but it's just I probably associate liking things like Doctor Who and that with more intuitive stuff. But I suppose, everyone's at least a little bit intuitive. So.
Ben can actually probably tell you something on that because we talked about this before, not even just in relation to Doctor Who, but in Blake Seven and some other stuff, is that there's sort of a divide between the things we enjoy over the sensing intuitive area.
It's kind of like, is it about how you enjoy it and how much or
Well, Ben likes the stuff that's kind of more bizarre and more like conceptual about like things that are. He likes exploring those concepts of stuff and the inner workings of things, whereas I like stuff that's more actiony or dialogue between characters and less to do with that stuff.
I mean, like there's a certain story called Weapon where I just think it's a fantastic weapon where it's like you mark people with this weapon and then you have the control and you can say to them, I can press this button at any time I like, and within a range of 1,000,000 miles, I have power over your life. So I can make you not come towards me, just have this ultimate power over people. And if you had that in Homicide, they would never know who did it unless they found the weapon.
mad INTP scientists.
Yeah, but I just like the idea of it rather than using it.
Yeah. See, I like all this. I like the characters, I like the story, I like the plot cycle, the conception stuff. I think, in general, I mentioned before, I follow a lot of YouTubers, and a lot of the ones that I follow are a lot of them are sevens. A lot of them review films and games and other stuff, and generally, I think they're more intuitives. Considering not all necessarily, but quite a lot. Considering the amount of depth they go into and the way they'll analyse it and the kind of things they're looking for. Some of this is obviously their background, like some of them have background in film studies and stuff, but even then, it's usually there's a degree of passion that suggests they're passionate about intuitive matters and analytical manners and stuff.
So, Jonathan, are you pretty confident of Jeff being an Enneagram Type 7?
I never knew it was in doubt. I probably. I think he mentioned it earlier on in a much earlier video, maybe in his channel or something, and or someone's channel, and it's probably one of the first E7s I came across then, or identified as E7. So he's, if anything, this man has influenced my idea of E7.
Well, that's flattering. When you were talking earlier about the thing, like the one from each section or whatever, I think when I did that, if I remember right, it was 7, 4, and 9. So, but that was just like the one that I related to the most out of each of the groups or whatever.
That's the.
Because I got, like, when I did tests of Enneagram, that the only other results I got besides 7, like as being the top one, I sometimes got 4, sometimes 9, and then a couple of times 3. They were really the only ones that also got besides 7, and then the lowest ones were always 5 and 1.
7, 4, 9, the Gentle Spirit. That's what it's called.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Right. I was just messaging with the female Enneagram buff that we all know.
She hasn't joined.
Not yet.
Or Feb, for short.
Yes. Oh, here we go. What? Oh, right. It is only 9:56 p.m. I was just thinking about our lateness.
Oh, so this is somebody in Europe then.
No. It's someone all three of us know and like.
But you said it was 9-something p.m.
Well,
Oh, for us, no, she was asking for us.
Yes, that's the time for us. Well,
If I say that she lives in the mountain time zone and she's like really big into Enneagram and she's an NF, then you'll have an idea who I'm talking about.
Okay.
And a 9FJ. Right. Right. So, and also does 7 wing 6.
I would say 7. I would say 7 wing 6 was better than 7 wing 8 because I mean, he's mentioned they likes being around people and 16 more person. 7 wing 6 is more person oriented and 7 wing 8, which obviously 7 wings do like being around people, but 7 wings kind of need people a bit more. 7 wing 8 is more assertive, more aggressive, and so on. More go for it.
Oh, you once did a post about the stackings where the one that can come last, where like if someone's like social last, like it can look really bad, but obviously in Jeff's case it doesn't. Like, what is it like when someone has social last?
I don't think I said it was really bad. I might have said something like social last is more prone to social faux pas or whatever. someone in the groups has said that social waste, a lot of internet trolls are social waste. Like they're not giving a damn about what
Yeah.
the social stuff, but that's more of an unhealthy thing. Usually, unhealthy NTs.
Yeah, I don't like trolls.
Yeah, so
Right.
yeah, I don't think it's not obviously not automatically a bad thing to be social last because it's just what it is. There's pros and cons to each of the blind spots.
Right. Oh. So, Jonathan, do you think there's anything else we can say in this hangout about?
I never really.
Enneagrams?
We still haven't properly talked about the instincts.
Oh, go on then. Go on then. I'll put it on.
Yeah. Well,
Over to you.
Yeah. So we've covered, more or less covered self-pres. I think. Yeah, we more or less covered the sexual as well. The social one is more. That's their. I've read two competing descriptions. Reese Van Hudson gave us a different description than Chestnut does. Reese Van Hudson focuses more on his social ones about having friends and wanting groups of people to celebrate with and to have fun with, getting people together. Chestnut and Naranjo seem to, which is what this seems based on. It's more about, although that description seems a bit ENFP, like New Age stuff, but they're more about how it's the social seven tries to be selfless, tries to be like they're aware of their type 7 tendencies to be potentially selfish, and they try and react against them and disguise them and hedge from them by being kind and getting you involved, trying to be seen as good and avoid exploiting others. And I think that's. It seems they can be confused with type 2. It seems a quite type 2 thing, like a goodness for a pause thing. But like I said, Reese Van Hudson gave a different description. There's more.
Oh yes.
Well, they sort of say type 2, but they're more about gathering the gang for various outings and adventures, and so on. That's what they say.
Yeah. I've got that in because I've got. Right, Jonathan, I've bought Beatrice Chestnut's book and Understanding the Enneagram.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good book, Understanding the Enneagram?
Yeah, it's a good. It's also quite brief, and good in that sense. It's a good short introduction. Good again. More. It's quicker to get to the point.
Right. One of the reasons I bought it is because the focus on the desires and fears. And I know that's mentioned in the. Right, I got something here. Right, the wing, the levels of development, and then it's got the instinctual variants, instinctual types. We have here. Right, so this I'll just read out what Riso and Hudson say for the. What they say for the. I'll just put that on the screen, and then it will focus on that, I think, and then it will refocus on me. There we go. Right, here we go. Self-preservation. The focus here is easy to understand from the name. People of this instinctual type are preoccupied with basic survival needs as they translate in our contemporary society. Thus, self-preservation types are concerned with money, food, housing, health, physical safety, and comfort. Being safe and physically comfortable are priorities. These people are quick to notice any problems in a room, such as poor lighting or uncomfortable chairs, or to be dissatisfied with room temperature. They often have issues connected with food and drink, either overdoing it or having strict dietary requirements. Ooh, she might be entering. A certain INFJ. Right. Right. So that there sounds like SI DOMs to me.
No, it's. Oh, Yeah.
And then,
SI DOMs are not 7s generally.
oh no, I'm just saying with the self-preservation.
Oh, self-preservation. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. We're talking about the preoccupation with comfort and stuff, and
Yeah.
here we go. In healthy to average levels of the three instinctual types, they are the most practical in the sense of taking care of basic life necessities, paying bills, maintaining the home and workplace, acquiring useful skills, and so forth. When these types deteriorate, they tend to distort the instinct to the degree that they are poor at taking care of themselves. Unhealthy self-preservation types eat and sleep poorly or become obsessed with health issues. They often have difficulty handling money and may act out in deliberately self-destructive ways. In a nutshell, no matter what Enneagram personality type is involved, self-preservation types are focused on enhancing their personal security and physical comfort. You think that's true, or has that changed since this was written?
I'd say that's still broadly true. That's more or less true. It's good. Decent description.
Right, here we go. We've got the social now. This variant is focused on their interactions with other people and with the sense of value or esteem they derive from their participation in collective activities. These include work, family, hobbies, clubs, basically any arena in which social types can interact with others for some shared purpose. The instinct underlying this behavior was an important one in human survival. Human beings on their own are rather weak, vulnerable creatures and easily fall prey to a frequently hostile environment. By learning to live and work together, our ancestors created the safety necessary for human beings not only to survive but to thrive. Within that social instinct, however, are many other implicit imperatives, and primary among them is the understanding of place within a hierarchical social structure. This is as true for dogs and gorillas as it is for human beings. Thus, the desire for attention, recognition, honor, success, fame, leadership, appreciation, and the safety of belonging can all be seen as manifestations of the social instinct. Social types like to know what is going on around them and want to make some kind of contribution to the human enterprise. There is often an interest in the events and activities of one's own culture or sometimes of another culture. In general, social types enjoy interacting with people, but they avoid intimacy. In their imbalanced, unhealthy forms, these types can become profoundly antisocial, detesting people and resenting their society, or having poorly developed social skills. In a nutshell, no matter what Enneagram personality type is involved, social types are focused on interacting with people in ways that will build their personal value, their sense of accomplishment, and their security of place with others.
Broadly true. I can relate to a lot of that. I would say that maybe this is me being an introvert or a 1.9 or more comfortable being asocial, perhaps in that description says, but otherwise it's mostly true.
Right. So Jeff, do you think that sounds very, very Guardian-ish, especially those?
What specifically?
Well, this focus on place in the hierarchy and.
I guess.
Now, the most interesting one for me is the sexual one, because it's the one that doesn't. Because the first two to me sound Guardian, and
this is you.
Yes. Oh no, Jonathan's going into me.
And this is you and Jeff.
Yes. Here we go. Many people originally identified themselves as this type, perhaps confusing the idea of a sexual instinctual type with being a sexy person. Of course, sexiness is in the eye of the beholder, and there are plenty of sexy people in all three of the instinctual types. Furthermore, lest one think this type more glamorous than the other two, one would do well to remember that the instinct can become distorted in the type, leading to the area of life causing the greatest problems. In healthy to average sexual types, there is a desire for intensity of experience, not just sexual experience, but any activity having a similar charge. This intensity could be found in a great conversation or an exciting movie. Much has been said about this type preferring one-on-one relationships versus the social type's preference for larger groups, but a quick poll of one's acquaintances will reveal that almost all people prefer communicating one-on-one rather than in a group. The question is more one of the intensity of contact and the strength of the desire for intimacy. Sexual types are the intimacy junkies of the instinctual types, often neglecting pressing obligations or even basic maintenance if they are swept up in someone or something that has captivated them. This gives a wide-ranging, exploratory approach to life, but also a lack of focus on one's own priorities. In their neurotic forms, this type can manifest with a wandering lack of focus, sexual promiscuity and acting out, or just the opposite, in a fearful, dysfunctional attitude towards sex and intimacy. Sexual types, however, will be intense, even about their avoidances. In conclusion, no matter what Enneagram personality type is involved, sexual types are focused on having intense, intimate interactions and experiences with others and with the environment to give them a powerful sense of aliveness.
So how do you two feel about that?
Oh, a question directed at me. I feel on the spot. Well, there's bits in there I see as related to artisans. And then the bits I connect to is swept up in someone or something that has captivated them. Wide-ranging, exploratory approach. What have we got? Wandering, lack of focus. What have we got? Yeah, the intimacy junkies, I suppose. But I suppose that would fit Jeff even more because there was lots of things in there that are artisan things.
Jeffrey?
Mhm.
When I read out the sexual one, did you relate to that or did you just zone out?
What part?
All of it. Right, so
Yeah,
all of it.
So we just got to fill a little bit of time before our favourite INFJ. Oh, sorry, Jonathan, but she is our favourite INFJ. Turns up.
your second favourite INFJ.
Yes.
I would.
Right. But I would think with the sexual type, maybe it's when reading that there were a lot of artisan traits in that.
Like
So do you
what?
think? Well, okay. Intensity of experience. Let's see what we've got here.
Good.
Right. Wide-ranging, exploratory approach to life. Other things. Let's have a look. I'll have a close look. In healthy to average sexual types, they have desire for intensity of experience, not just sexual experiences, but any activity of a similar charge. This intensity can be found in a great conversation or an exciting movie. No matter what the Enneagram personality type is involved, sexual types are focused on having intense, intimate interactions and experiences with others and with the environment to give them a powerful sense of aliveness. Oh, dear. How embarrassing. So what do you think, Jonathan, of that? It's not outdated, is it?
No, it's fine. It's pretty decent, good introduction.
So we know.
This is pretty good.
Right, so she's restarting her computer, so we have to. If I go back to the diagram.
Oh, What else have we got left to talk about?
We can talk about what future hangouts. Where we can do. We can have a brief look, a little teaser for levels of development. A little teaser for the net before.
What did you title this video, Ben?
Social.
Instinctual variance.
Yeah.
But the reason why I'm is that she will be here shortly. Right.
We can always do another video with a different topic.
Yeah, but I just want a little bit of Crystal. That's who she is. Crystal is on the way. Right. And then I can make her the thumbnail and get more views. Right.
False advertising. She's.
No, Ben was just talking about that the other day, like how was it Voyager was one they would have they'd put Jerry Ryan in the trailer even though she was in one scene to try to watch her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they would have nearly, I think, through the whole of Star Trek, there was only one story that she wasn't in. And there would be loads of stories where she was only in one scene.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
They knew what the
I
nerds
got
wanted.
suckered by the same thing though, because Ben was talking about the soap operas earlier. Like my favorite character on The Bold and the Beautiful, like she would be basically the way in soap operas, like you know who's going to be in that episode, is that in the pre-credits sequence, it'll have like these short scenes and it'll have the characters. You know, okay, this is going to feature these three sets of characters or whatever in the episode. But sometimes they would trick you because I'd watch in my favorite character, the original Donna. See that she's on there still now, but it's a different actress and they ruined her. But the original Donna, was my favorite, and she'd be in the opening scene, and then she wasn't in it again until the last scene of the episode. So it's like the actual time. Like I actually experimented with this. I recorded the show, and then I edited it so there was only her scenes, and it was in a whole week of shows, and the total time she was on screen was less than 15 minutes.
Anthony Hopkins won an Oscar for less than 15 minutes, so yeah.
Yeah.
That's a random thing to bring up.
Oh, are you irked by that, Jonathan?
What?
No,
no. My thing was a random thing to bring up. Anthony Hopkins. Why did I bring that up? Weird.
No, you just said it was related to it.
It was the most tenuous way, you know.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So we've done ESFP 7s. So Jonathan, we've not really mentioned what are ESTP 7s like?
I think Bart Simpson's an ESTP 7, so there's an idea.
Ooh, Jeff's specialist subject, ESTPs and Simpsons. So Jeff, what do you think the type is of Bart?
Well, the ESTP part, I've always, thought that for a long time. I haven't really thought much about his Enneagram type, so.
I would say 7 wing, maybe 7 wing 8 and 7 wing 6, but.
The first thing I thought of when he brought that up, though, was just, I'm gonna blight their world.
Did they ever do bits because you know that they mention it every now and then? I think that
that makes me think of it.
They're the same age.
If he's
Did they tell Bart to grow up? I wish I could. I feel like I've been like this forever.
That makes me think Morgan's that then too, because he's so much like Bart in so many ways. But of course, he's also like DJ-R&D, who's 8 wing 7, I think. So.
He went back and forth between 8 wing 7 and 8 wing 9, but.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Yeah, it's hard for me because the person I know the best online that's an 8 wing 9 is completely different than my son or Ezer, but she's an ESFJ, so So that's a whole other universe to me.
Well, but in answer to your question, yes, they have joked about that in The Simpsons that Bart never ages more than once.
Yeah, there's been a lot, lots of jokes over the years,
there's that episode Behind the Laughter where it's is treating it as if it's a documentary, and
Yeah, I love that one.
Lisa Simpson does this whole thing where she's interviewing the press and giving the doctor and everyone. She's saying that to prolong the show, I was given anti-growth drugs to keep a younger show.
There's another one because they make fun of the fact that like some characters will age and others won't, because they had the episode where it was Apu's kids, because they had octuplets, and then they were like older, they were like, I don't know, going to preschool or something like that, and Bart says something like, yeah, like they talked about, well, remember when they were little babies, and he goes like, way back when I was 10. And he's like, he's still 10, so he's like, all of a sudden he's puzzled by like, wait a minute.
Yeah, but yeah, I'd say he's a really good example of the ESTP7. Just lots of the 718 especially, lots of the getting bored with school, want to just distract themselves, play games, skateboards, be outdoors, have fun, maybe get into mischief, in trouble, but not general. That's the sort of ESTP 7 things. There are episodes where set in the future where it's implied he gets more responsible eventually. Like in the earliest future one, he eventually becomes Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. But after that, though, all the future episodes are him becoming a complete loser. But he's just, he gets a job where he can crush cars and stuff, or the one where he just doesn't really have a job.
That sounds pretty cool. Crushing cars sounds pretty cool.
He had the one time where he had a dream about being a rock star, and it was like one of those behind the music things, because it wasn't even about like the time when he was on top as a rock star. It was like when he was like washed up and fat and like a drunk or a druggie or something. He's lying there and Milhouse comes up to him and says, "You've changed, man. It used to be about the music." And Bart like throws a bottle at him and says, "Slag off." And then he goes back to Bart in the current time and he goes, "Cool." So he was more excited by the fact of the downward spiral of being a rock star than the actual like fame.
Yeah. We had Crystal and she's gone.
Right, she might be back. Right.
That'll be your one hell of a thumbnail on your video.
There's just enough for a thumbnail.
Yeah.
Oh, she's back.
Hi, I joined on the wrong account, so I had to switch.
Oh. He didn't say your surname. He didn't say your surname, did it?
I don't know, so I just logged out real quick.
But, okay.
Yeah.
She doesn't want us to know she's really.
Well, actually,
you all know already.
I clicked on your thumbnail straight away, so they wouldn't have seen your name anyway. Because when you click on the thumbnail, the name disappears. Right.
Ben was saying that he was.
So does that mean if you click on me, then I disappear, Ben?
Well, the Jeffrey thing, the letters Jeffrey, I think. Well, actually, I don't think they do because your webcam's off at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that.
So Ben owes me because he talked me into doing this instead of going on my run.
I never knew. I never knew about the run
yes,
thing.
you did.
INFJs are not made for running. You know that.
I think I'm a weird hybrid because I love running. So.
What?
So what were you talking about before I came? I need to catch up.
What does he owe you? Like, what do you?
I don't know, but he's been warned, so I'm.
Ooh.
Well, hopefully, whatever I owe you, I can give to you.
Well, we were talking about. Firstly, we were talking about Ben's going to use your picture as a thumbnail for this video and pretend you're in it all the whole time.
I'm always like that, trying to get the best thumbnail.
And then we
So
were
you're not talking about Enneagram 7
we
anymore?
were. We can go back to it. We were, honestly.
Yeah. We were talking about.
I see how this is what happens when you guys are left to yourselves. You don't really get any work done.
Because we were talking about how, because we were waiting for you to arrive, and we said like how Bart Simpson was like, I think 7 Wing 8.
We were talking about the best subject there is, which is how awesome I am. That's what it is.
This is true.
Yes.
This is why I joined.
Yes.
Yeah, Jeff.
Oh,
You can't get a more awesome topic than Jeff.
Take that, Ben.
Well, yeah, I don't challenge your awesomeness with my own. I don't have any awesomeness.
Oh, stop.
Ew, come on.
It's
You
not
did an awesome impression of Orak. You can do that.
Orak? I don't know this. I don't know this character.
What was
Obscure
what was that?
sci-fi character.
I
Yeah.
thought I knew all sci-fi. Orak? I need to go ask my husband.
Yes, he
Oh,
talks a
oh,
little bit
boy.
like this. Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? A little bit like that.
Like
He
so,
Okay.
does a great job of that.
Yeah.
It's,
What show is he in?
All my favourite science fiction. Oh, they were Red Dwarf and Blake 7 are my favourites.
Blake 7.
What's Orak from?
Blake 7.
He is the most powerful computer possibly in the whole of science fiction.
He's in the Red Dwarf?
No,
No,
Blake
no,
7.
no. Blake 7. But I love
haven't
Red Dwarf
seen
as
that
well.
Okay.
I love Red Dwarf as well. So you used to watch Red Dwarf, Crystal?
I've only seen like 3 episodes, and I was like, I'll just leave you to that. And I left.
Oh yeah, but maybe I
I
was
had
like,
a similar
maybe
reaction.
I was showing it to you and saying, hey
Right.
Crystal, you want to look at this?
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
Crystal,
he was just.
yeah.
Take it on. Go
That
ahead.
was you're a font of Enneagram knowledge. So what are
Jonathan's
you?
more knowledgeable. I went and got my Beatrice book on my Kindle because you said you were
right.
talking about the instinctual
Yes.
instincts.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it talks about the 7s, and it's like just a teeny little paragraph for each one.
Teeny, it's quite long, the one I've.
What?
What do you mean, teeny little paragraphs? It's quite long, I think. compared to
Well,
the
this
rest
is-
of it.
This is an introduction. I'm not. This is just like talking about. It's just a really quick summary. This is SX7, SO7, SP7.
Yep.
Self-preservation 7 expresses gluttony through making alliances and creating opportunities for gaining an advantage. Pragmatic and self-interested, these 7s find safety through networking and being alert to opportunities that support their survival. The name Keepers of the Castle refers to their way of establishing a partisan network of allies through which they create safety and satisfy their needs. Cheerful and amiable, they have a love of pleasure and tend to get what they want. So, Self-Preservation 7, Keepers of the Castle. Is that the counter type for 7, Jonathan? The self-preservation?
I actually got that wrong earlier in the video. I said they were, but they're not. The social 7 is the counter type. Yeah. I think you're reading a different description from the one I've got, because the one I've.
So what does counter type mean? Is that like the type most likely
the-
to work behind the counter?
It means the
No.
type is most unlike like the anti-7, the anti-thing. So the anti.
Oh, so they're like
so
the devil.
social 7s are like
Here's the strips.
the least like other 7s, the least self-focused, shall we say.
That's what I think is so weird about like the Enneagram thing. Like you're gonna have a system where like within the system you've got a type where you're like, this is the subtype of the type that's the most anti the type. I'm like, what?
I think that's-
Exactly.
I think-
It kind of seems like a cop out because you're like, well, if they don't act like this, well, it's because they're this.
Oh,
It's a
subtype
subtype.
that doesn't
Sub,
act like
sub,
that.
sub.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it was like they just noticed a trend of people saying that they couldn't decide what their type was, or they were this type, but they weren't. There were things they couldn't relate to, and they noticed that they usually had these instincts. So
So Morgan said something to the effect of because the other day when Rachel and Ben and him were going through all those like various Enneagram things, they were trying to like Morgan was talking about stuff and calling most of it trash.
Yes.
But then he said something when he wasn't on the recording though, because he was in the hangout where he was talking about like in video games how you can like you can change out your equipment and he with these wings like you ought to be able to just like
Lock
take
in
off
this,
the
lock
wings
off that.
and put on other wings. So that's the way he was. I just thought that was like an interesting insight on that. Because I was like, that's his mentality is that if you any of this stuff is like it's limiting to you, so it's like you need to be able to like put on other equipment.
Mhm.
Anyway, he said it better than I did, but
I like that. It's making me think of my nephews playing with their Legos, and they like take off the wings and lock in this other something that they create. Why not? So you could
Right.
lock on a self-preservation whenever you need it.
yeah.
Keeper of the castle? I'd never heard that. That's kind of a weird one. So social 7. Are you a social, Jeff? Is that your instinct?
We think he's SXSP.
Oh. Okay. So this won't apply to you, maybe. The social 7. The social 7 is actually considered the counter-type 7, which blows my mind. I don't understand that. Okay, as the counter-type, social 7s go against gluttony through conscientious efforts to be of service to others. Conscious of wanting to avoid exploiting others, they have a need to be good and pure and to sacrifice their own needs in supporting the needs of others. Sounds more two-ish. They have a passion for being seen as good, for the sacrifice of their own desires, and they express an ascetic ideal and make a virtue of getting by on little. They express idealism and enthusiasm as a way of making themselves feel active and valued in the world. Do any of you
That
know
makes sense
social
to me 'cause
7s?
it seems
Okay.
like ENFP sounding, so maybe that's
Yeah. Well, I've seen EFPs that are not like that at all.
well, I'm not saying all of them,
Yeah.
but it does sound like something that would
Plus-
be common to a lot of ENFPs.
Possibly. I think Reese and Hudson give a different description, which I can read.
Yeah.
They give us different. Let me see. Social. Here's theirs. Social 7s are highly people-oriented and somewhat idealistic, so they're sometimes mistaken for 2s. They like entertaining and gathering the gang for various outings and adventures. They love conversation, launching new projects with others, brainstorming, and initiating creative endeavours. Social 7s are also looking for a place to invest their idealism. They feel they have much to offer the world, but are forever searching for the perfect vehicle through which to express their talents and aspirations. While social 7s like being involved with people and activities, because they are 7s, they also tend to feel that they are losing options when they commit to a particular person or course of action. Thus, they have problems with making a commitment because they want to be involved but feel trapped once they get involved. One way that social 7s navigate this conflict is by agreeing to do too many things with too many people. They also tend to make backup plans regarding agreements. Naturally, others are often caught off guard by sudden changes of plans, and oddly, no one really gets the social 7's attention. Social 7s may sabotage good relationships while secretly hoping someone better will come along.
That sounds very ENFP.
I was about to say, that sounds even more like the ENFPs
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, sexual 7. So this should be familiar. And you have sexual 7 from Bruzo and Hudson, John?
Yes.
Okay,
Don't call
cool.
me. Hey, don't call me John.
Jonathan.
Ooh!
Sorry. Sexual 7s express gluttony through a need to imagine something better than ordinary reality. Gluttons for things of a higher world. They are idealistic dreamers with a passion for living in their imaginations. Sexual 7s look at things with the optimism of someone who is in love. They see the world through rose-colored glasses. Suggestibility refers to being somewhat naive and easy to hypnotize. Lighthearted and enthusiastic. They focus on exciting possibilities and pleasurable fantasies, and they believe they can do everything. Is that true, Jeff? You can do it all?
No. No, I'd say maybe about 15% of that I relate to. Pretty small amount.
Okay.
I just
What's-
think it, again, like, it gets, some of the descriptions of the 7 stuff
Yeah,
sounds more like intuitive types.
yeah,
That they're not considering
I agree.
the other side of it.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, here's the recent Hudson one. Sexual 7 seeks stimulation, especially the stimulation of whatever is new, cutting edge, or exotic. They are extremely curious and often intellectually avid, and they bring the same searching engagement to their relationships. Sexual 7s love to meet new people, to learn about them, and to get intensely involved with them, whether through conversation, shared adventures, or sexual experiences. They are often highly charismatic, having no trouble capturing people's attention with their energy, wit, and genuine desire to connect with people. They often frustrate themselves and others, however, because their attention is easily captured by what promises excitement. Sexual sevens can shift from one intense focus to another too quickly for their own good. They can become easily enthused about a new idea, person, or experience without checking it out thoroughly, often leading to regrets later on, either in business or in relationships. When less healthy, they may indiscriminately pursue relationships or unusual, even dangerous experiences for the excitement that they bring and to counteract boredom and inner deadness. The search for a variety of exotic and intense experiences can leave them burned out and dissipated.
How about that one, Jeff?
A little bit more. I think the first part was kind of how I wish I was.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's
you know, the descriptions are like captivating people and stuff. I love to do that. I just don't think I do most of the time. Most people ignore me.
well, as I said, your first instinct's really more about what you want, and the second is what you're more comfortable with. So,
well, yeah, it sounds good. It sounds exciting. It just sounds more. Both of those descriptions sound more whimsical than I am. But you know, I think I'm a little bit more of the visceral side of the same thing. Which doesn't mean that I don't like daydream about stuff, but it's like it's not, you know, it's not quite so fantasy oriented, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think that if someone was comparing, say, if you didn't have the levels of development and you just had the Enneagram 7 profile, and then you had the Kersey ESFP profile, you'd look at that and go, whoa, the Kersey ESFP profile fits me a lot better. This is a lot more useful to me. But then the levels of development gives you this inner dynamics of how things can change. And this is from the back of Riso and Hudson's personality types. And so what do you think of this, Crystal? Do you think that's a good nifty diagram? It's core dynamics.
What does B terms and A terms mean?
I don't know, I've not read that bit yet, but I understand desires and fears and the rest of it.
No.
Yeah, I think that the deal that I've learned with Enneagram stuff is that when they stick to the stuff it calls basic, then I relate to it. When it starts to try to like extrapolate a bunch of stuff based on that, then I lose my connection to it. Because I think my theory about that is that the people writing the stuff are intuitive types themselves, and they don't quite understand how it manifests in sensor type.
They're just making stuff up.
I think Hudson at least is in NF. I think I've seen him in INFJ or NFJ or something. She's in NF.
Yeah, I said before, the Enneagram as a whole seems like a very NFJ system.
Yeah.
Woohoo! I love it.
Buy NFs for NFs.
Yay!
I would say this is not bad, but it's alright. I don't.
Like I said, if you come across any better ones, please send them in my direction.
What book is this from?
The problem
This
is
that personality types 96, Riso and Hudson.
Okay, I've read it, but I didn't spend a lot of time in the appendix.
I think it said you got it from the library, and then you bought Wisdom of the Enneagram.
Right.
I definitely relate to the part about missing out on other worthwhile things and experiences.
What number is that under?
Number 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that a lot.
Yeah, I think we looked at it last night. What did I put? I thought that Jeff was somewhere between 3 and 4.
They fear that they will be bored and frustrated, and the negative feelings will arise.
Is that just a general SP experience, though?
Probably.
It seems like they need that, external stimulation. I think my ISFP daughter would. I don't know that she's a 7, but I think she doesn't like being bored, and she doesn't want to miss out. And
does she have a 7 fix?
You made me so curious, Crystal, on your video where you talked about talking to your kids about what you were going through with your faith and stuff, because I've both heard you talk about and even heard from your kids before, so I was really curious what that conversation was like and what they said. You know, I would have liked to have been the fly on the wall for that.
Yeah, my little ISFP was hilarious because she wasn't really participating. She was like playing with toys in the corner of the room. And then somewhere in the middle of the conversation, she just turned around and she's like, well, that's stupid. Like she just, she just apparently was paying attention but wasn't sure how to contribute. And so then halfway through, she was like listening about how things are kind of contradicting each other. And then she chimed in. So it was a lot of fun to kind of put on it.
That
Child's
reminds me of my son. He does that a lot.
Those little outbursts, well, that's stupid.
Yep.
Yeah, I always think that's like his middle name.
He's trash when he says
Yeah.
things. Everything's trash.
Trash?
Yeah, that's trash.
Yeah, I was going to say, I might introduce him next time as Morgan, this is Trash Miller.
Do it. I think he'd like it. Funny. Yeah. I don't know about these lower ones. I don't think I've met anybody that,
Good.
I know. I'm grateful. But that's interesting. Like, number 6, they fear that their actions are bringing them pain and unhappiness.
Well, I mean, I'd relate to a lot of these things, you know. I mean, I mean, are they trying to say that like everybody just stays within a level, or?
Oh,
Well,
no, it's very dynamic.
These are more rough guides. Like there's.
Okay.
You can change your levels. Yeah, you're not
I mean,
stuck
I think
in.
within a day you can go through.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Based on your mood or lack of sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's more like
Right.
it's more like if you're if you're unhealthy in general, maybe you had a really bad or maybe abusive childhood sometimes, or you had under a huge amount of stress, whatever, and you had more increasingly selfish to. You become preoccupied with your anxiety to the point where it's all about you and escaping your anxiety.
Yeah.
That's
For
what
me,
it's
the
really
absolute
healthy.
worst feeling is like nobody cares about me at all. Like if I just vanished tomorrow, that nobody would give a damn. That's like the worst feeling is when I feel like, well, people just sort of pay lip service to, oh, I care about you, but then when it comes down to it, I feel like, well, if they really did, then they would reach out to me more. You know, that's like, you know, that's the times where I'm, you know, at my most cynical about when anybody expresses about anything, when they express about like, you know, oh, I really care about my friends, and I'm thinking, well, do you really? Because do you know where your friends are right now? Do you know what they're going through? Do you know what they need? You know, I almost want to poke holes in it and be like, you don't really care about your friends, do you? You know, and it's like it's not even it's not even to attack that person. It's more of a sympathy where I'm like, I know what it feels like to feel like people just sort of pay lip service to that and don't really don't really demonstrate the caring. You know.
Yeah, Jeff is a good hole poker.
That sounds
Yeah.
That sounds a bit like going to Average 5, like poking holes in other people's ideas and logic under stress, that sort of thing. Just a random throw that in there. That's what 7 does.
I have this very natural contrarian feeling where, like, when somebody presents something and they're too confident about it, then I want to break it down. And again, it's not because I want to attack people. It's more like attacking the thing, the concept, the idea. I'm less comfortable with that. I can like a person, and it's almost like I'm doing that for their good. You know, solidify what they have or feel like, as opposed to trying to destroy it. Either way, it's like to test it either way. Either to put you in a position where you question something where you think this is not true, or to give you the reason to go to solidify it and say, no, this really is what I do or what I believe, and here's why.
Jeff attacking an idea at you.
I think I've seen that in a lot of tertiary TE types, like ENFP and ESFP both kind of do that. Like when they see someone with a little too much arrogance, they kind of knock them down a bit.
And
But I
some
think-
people
I think
react
it's
a lot
good,
better
though.
to that than others.
Right, of course. Yeah.
Some people do not like to be challenged.
I don't mind if like when I'm talking to Jeff about socionic stuff. That's a challenge.
Yeah,
But
and I
do
think
take that challenge.
I think that's why, you know, that Ben and I have a good dynamic when we're talking, because he doesn't get like super offended by me challenging on stuff, and I don't get like super offended by him asking me questions like personal things or you know, stuff like that. Like we can hash all that stuff out and we can laugh about it and not be like all, you know, not worried that we're like 2 seconds away from the other one just being like, I've had it with you, I quit, you know.
Yeah, because Jeff will point out when I may, because a lot of times I may overgeneralize just through intellectual laziness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm big on, you know, to calling things as they are and not making a ton of assumptions about stuff. And I understand you have to sometimes hypothesize based on what you know, but it's when people state things like, "Oh, I absolutely know this because of something else," that really doesn't show that, you know. And when it comes to the typology, you know, when people are like, "Oh, you know, your best fit type is ESFP, therefore here's what your 7th function is," and I'm like, "No, you don't know that. You know, you might know a diagram or what, you know, a model or something, but you don't know that about me because you haven't talked to me. All you know is by me telling you that, you know 4 preferences. That's all you know based on that. So if you want to know more, that's great. Let's talk and get to know each other, and then we'll get to know those more things. But don't just jump to conclusions and say, "Oh, I know this about you," when you don't.
And I like how Enneagram can nuance things. So, for instance, Jonathan has talked to me about the idea of doing a hangout with all 9 Enneagram versions of INFJs, but him saying, "I don't think we can find an Enneagram 7 INFJ."
Or you probably won't find a few of them.
Could we? Maybe we could
Well,
have.
you can
Maybe
get-
we could have Jeff do that character, and he could be the
That's how you do
INFJ
it.
D7.
That's how you do it.
I would, if you were doing that,
Impersonations.
if you were do, I think the closest you'll get to that is the 5. You may get a, obviously I'm a type 1, Crystal's type 2, type 4, type 6, and type 9, maybe a type 5 if possible. But that's a different conversation because I'm not sure type 5s, even though we're supposed to do one tomorrow.
So maybe we could have in the hangout a disintegrated Enneagram Type 5 to be the 7.
And
Were
so
you
just
not
like they're
convinced
just flat
that
on
Ash
the
is a
ground.
5? Oh,
I've
sorry.
I have mentioned that too. I'm not sure. She says that my first impression is that she's a 4, and she says she's 4 in her. She thinks she's 4 in her tri-type. She says she's not that clued up on it. She said that she became more rational as she got older, but it wasn't originally that. And also, she does not seem to relate to type 8 very much, even though that's the growth type. And also, the descriptions of type 5 really, some of the things really stress the lack of emotion at times, so it's a bit unusual, I feel. It's may or may not be. I could just be dead wrong there, but
My INFJ friend Sasha, I have no clue what Enneagram type she would be. And I got to know her pretty well when we were working together, but I still wouldn't even know where to guess. So that's, I don't recognize Enneagram types like as quickly as I do like temperaments and stuff. So there's sometimes somebody just stands out as really, you know, representing, like my mother as a type 2. She's like really fits that.
Well, one beer. Yes, Crystal, you could join us.
Oh, you're
tomorrow.
doing it again? What are you talking about tomorrow?
Tomorrow we're doing a hangout, and that's your time.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's for tomorrow for the discuss.
Yeah, I think we're doing maybe
some-
instincts with Rose, and then in future we could do tri-type, and then we could do levels of development, and then we could do. I think some I've not done before is we could do the INFJ. I've done 2 parts of Crystal so far. The INFJ Model G.
You're
You're
breaking up.
Oh, I'm breaking up. Oh no.
Oh, you're fine now. It's like as soon as we
Right.
as soon as we tell you you're breaking up, that fixes it. That's the magic spell.
So maybe we could do. So in future, once we've done the Enneagram, we could do like the Model G INFJ with Jonathan and Ash. And maybe Crystal could join for that, or maybe we could eventually finish the Crystal ones in the future.
Sure. I don't know what time that is here, but
Well, it's
we
one.
can coordinate when it's not about Jeff. This is about Jeff.
Yes.
Type 7.
Yes.
Yay.
Maybe you guys are all done. I probably need to go run. So
Okay. Literally.
yes. Yes.
Right. So anything you want to say, Jeff?
Cookies
So-
are good.
Right. I felt we cut you off a little bit before, and I felt a little bit guilty for that.
Yeah, you cut me off. I was only 5% through my life story. So back to when I was 4. No, I'm just that was when I was in preschool, where I had like my first example of people being like mean for no reason. Because I was on like the monkey bars, and this kid like pulled my fingers off, so I fell. And I remember thinking, what did
What
he
an
do
asshole.
that for? Like, I
Yeah.
didn't do anything to him. Why is he doing
Oh,
that?
my lord, sorry.
It was my first
Jonathan, why are you laughing? This is not a funny story.
Sorry.
It's okay. Laughter is
It's
good.
not okay.
I'm laughing in pain.
Oh yeah. Earlier he said I made him sad. So
Yes, he did make me sad.
I would-
He also made me happy with his.
I'd write Schadenfreude
Stories.
on here, but I don't know how to spell it.
I can't remember what it means.
It's taking pleasure in other people's pain.
yeah,
Oh,
I made him
that's-
sad because I
that's
said
sadism.
that I don't know where I'm gonna be living, so I'm in limbo.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
I don't know what to do. Yeah, it should have occurred to me that one, because my mother's INFJ too, and like, she's in panic mode if she doesn't have a plan in place. So, and meanwhile, I'm like, I don't like having plans because then it feels like it's a obligation.
And it can, even if it's obligations for things that Jeff finds fun.
Right. Yeah. That's where like I know that something is solid is when it stays the same even through differing circumstances like that. So it's like I always feel like that regardless of whether it's something I want to do or not. If it feels like it's too scheduled or it's obligated, then I'm not looking forward to it. And then, I think the real test of that would be like if you were like, okay, 30 days from now you're going to inherit $1 million. And as I got closer to that time, would I be like, no, I don't want to do that.
You're insane!
Yeah, probably.
Oh, that's so funny. Is that how you felt when you first got married? Like the week before your wedding, were you squirming?
Yeah, we never actually had a wedding ceremony, so that was like there. But
You
there was
avoided that.
there was a time like that though, because we were going to on this I think it was like spring break or the weekend leading up to that, and we had been planning that, and all I had to do was like go to the courthouse to get like the marriage certificate, and then we over that weekend. It felt like this thing, this big thing I got to go do, and I was like, I don't really want to do that.
Oh my gosh. Did you tell her that?
Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah, she.
Yeah, but Jeff has said, I think that
we enabled each other all the time.
Oh my gosh.
I think Jeff has said that his former ENFP was more P than he was.
Oh, I guess it depended on her type. I forgot that she was the ENFP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so she wasn't going to react the way I would.
We were a mess. We were a mess.
Ah, there you go, Crystal. So, like, they've got these socionics people you type in you as ENFP, and I'm thinking,
Well, they
what?
don't think it's the same thing. They
Yeah.
don't say it's MBTI ENFP, which I agree with. I'm not an MBTI ENFP.
Depends on the model you use.
Well,
I
I've
think.
got Victor's ENFP profile. I've looked at it in as soon as it's translated, I'll send it to you, Crystal.
Good.
And-
As a private thing.
I would like to see it too for a totally different reason.
Okay, but don't send it to other people.
Mm-mm.
Right.
It's okay, I'm going to attribute it to them the way else.
I think IE, don't you SEE, it's an LIE.
Oh, I hate the Chi code. I really do.
I hated that I figured it out, now I feel smarter.
Yeah, I don't mind the. I quite like the nicknames because it's quite good if you know them. Where if it's a bad line in the Hangout, you can understand it. Whereas you can miss it a bit when it's a letter.
Yeah, like that's what I was saying earlier about those Enneagram Instinct things. Like every time he was like, if you have success, PSPX6, if you have success, if you have success, then if you have success, P. And I'm just like, what? There's got to be a better way to say that.
Oh, has anyone ever seen Scrubs? The show Scrubs? Yeah. JD is a type 7 ENFP, I think.
Yeah.
Random in the conversation.
Right. So, I'm gonna get some Janus out now. Crystal, so we don't want to make Crystal late for her run, where she goes, I'm never hanging out with that Ben again. He makes me late for stuff. So I don't want to be an excuse. So it's the end from me.
Well, I'm not gonna
other
put any
people-
pressure on you, Crystal. But sometime, if you don't mind, even if you don't want them to be on camera or whatever, it'd be really cool to hear from your kids in one of these things, you know.
Oh yeah. If I had better ways of questioning, you've seen me do interviews with them. I don't get really good results. I think they need censor questions, so maybe I should have you interview them.
That'd be great. I do well with like my coworkers' kids when they're at the office. Like, you know, they run to me when they come in the door.
That's awesome. Well, I'm not against it. I think it would be interesting.
I've got some of my walls are decorated with stuff from kids. In the office.
Aww.
We should have mentioned that in the things that Jeff enjoys. We should have put children.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Don't phrase it that way.
Well, yeah.
Even
People start-
ESTP children.
People start making sinister assumptions when you say things like that.
Yeah.
We would.
Which is sad. I hate
Yes,
that
it is
that's the
sad.
case, but
That's the second. That's the second reference you've been to that.
Oh
Horrible
no! I
subject.
mean, sorry, the Jimmy will fix it thing. Damn him! Damn Jimmy Savile!
You should. Anyway, for your kids, Crystal, you should have it in a dark. Film them in a dark room and just shine a light on them, and then we'll ask the questions. Interrogate.
what kind of bizarre.
You're not invited, Jonathan.
Sound out there. I didn't hear it. I'm gonna miss that great joke for the rest of my life. What was said?
I said that if we were interviewing Crystal's children, she should put them in a dark room and put a big spotlight on them, and then we can interview them, interrogate them.
Yeah.
Asking questions that way.
Right.
And I said he's not invited to the interview.
All right.
And you won't get any proper answers. How could you get answers, woman?
Not that way.
I'm sure one of your daughters is SG, isn't they? I'm sure they'll appreciate it. They'll understand.
Lucky.
She was good. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You'll understand.
You watch too much television. This is not real life.
I would say you don't watch enough television.
I was thinking more like, just put on some music and then tell your daughter, like, okay, dance your feelings.
She would go for that.
See? That's what I'm saying. I got that connection,
That's awesome. Well, thanks, you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks again, Crystal.
Right.
Right. There's our thumbnail. Right. So I will I'll end with this, and then you can end your ways. Oh yeah, I was just going to say, this is my £2 tablet. Right. So, it's goodbye from me.
Bye.
Ta-ta.
Ooh, ta-ta. Very posh.
Ta-ta.